We got an op-ed from The Hill, The Greatest Threat to American Journalism, The Loss of Neutral Reporting by John Solomon, opinion contributor, and they stress the views expressed by contributors are their own and not the view of The Hill. Now, before we get started, because you know where it's going, I'm going to give an honorable mention to Mr. Jim Acosta, who I think is a total piece of human garbage. I do not like the man. I think he is a grandstander. I think he besmirches the good name of actual journalism. Not that there are very many left. No, I take that back. There are a lot of really great journalists, but the ones who make it big and are able to get famous are the ones like Jim Acosta, who broke over 1 million followers by getting into debates with Donald Trump about his opinions on what things are and should be, instead of asking questions and letting the president of our country give an answer. Look, you can ask Trump hard questions, of course you can, but that's not what Jim Acosta does. So this is what this op-ed is about. Neutral reporting, it's gone. And I can tell you my experience, because you've probably heard it before if you've been following me. When I was at Fusion, I heard all about this idea of mission-driven storytelling. When I was at VidCon 2 years ago, the president of Now This News said they were working with anti-Trump activists at the highest levels to produce their content. The idea being, we're here to make money. We're not here to actually tell the truth. That's what they say in these meetings. They don't care what you believe. They don't care what's right. They care what sells. They're a company selling a product, and that product is confirmation bias. Because this works so much, who's going to bother being fact-based? You know, if you watch my main channel, this is my opinion channel, by the way. My main channel is absolutely opinion, too. Don't get me wrong. But what I do in my main channel is very different from what I do here. My main channel typically starts, because sometimes I just go on op-ed rants like I do here, but typically I'll take sources and I'll go through them, and what you don't see behind the scenes is that when I use a source, I actually double check it across various sources to make sure I'm minimizing the bias, basically. You know, in my video I did earlier today, if you watched it, I talked about how Bloomberg said Donald Trump, without evidence, claimed they were criminals in the migrant caravan. Except there's tons of evidence all over the place. And I wonder why it is that when Trump says something, hey, this is true, instead of saying, yeah, there's reason to believe they are criminals, we don't know if the number is 500. But why would they say without evidence? Yes, everyone says things without evidence all the time. You don't need to qualify it. All you're trying to do is manipulate. Why? It makes them money. When they, it's called the Trump bump. What is it, 90+% of all news about Trump is negative. Why? It makes them money. Of course there's positive news about Trump. You can say a ton of great things. North Korea is doing fantastic with South Korea. There's a brilliant photo on the internet of people shaking hands. Trump was involved in that. You can complain about it, whatever. The point is, economy's doing well. Stock market's been down lately, but unemployment is at record lows. So why is the news always negative? It makes the money. Let's see what Mr. Solomon has to say. He says, over the past several months, I've watched, read, and heard much about the potential Armageddon facing the profession of journalism. I've watched colleagues complain that fake news attacks by Trump, crowd chants of enemies, and the expulsion of CNN's Jim Acosta from the White House press room pose the greatest threats to news reporting in history. I respectfully disagree. And I respectfully disagree. Those are his words, but I agree with him. To be fair, there are many dangers I recognize and many fears I see as justified. 45 members of the news media have died in the line of duty this year, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists. The death of Jamal Khashoggi at the hands of the Saudi government seeking to silence his voice is as horrific as it is unconscionable. The mail devices sent to media outlets are also reprehensible and chilling. But journalism, sadly, has laid to rest many a brave reporter here and on foreign soil, and it managed to keep a neutral light of disclosure burning bright in far more difficult times than today. We journalists have more freedom, more reach, more ability to inform today than ever before. But with those advantages comes an even greater responsibility to the public. One I fear is being denigrated by journalists who substitute opinion for facts and emotion for dispassion. Like Jim Acosta, who stood up at that press conference, that ill-fated press conference, where he said, I want to challenge you, President Trump. You called the migrant caravan an invasion. Clearly you know they're not an invasion. I'm paraphrasing. He said something of that nature. I don't care about your opinion. And that's what he's talking about right here. Instead of just going up there and saying, why would you classify it as an invasion? Please give us a clarified answer. There you go. That's what a journalist is supposed to do. But no, it's passionate opinion. He says, we have become too full of our own opinions, too enthralled with our own celebrity, too emotionally offended by warranted and unwarranted criticism, and too astray from the neutral, factual voice our teachers in journalism school insisted we practice. I didn't go to journalism school. I'm a high school dropout. It was that neutral voice that compelled Americans to welcome television newscasters Walter Cronkite or Peter Jennings into their living rooms each night. It was that commitment to factual reporting without slant that made the morning and evening newspaper mandatory reading. And it was the relentless, but emotionally detached commitment to truth, context, and fairness, even when enemies sought to discredit us, that exposed such wrongs as Watergate, the Tuskegee experiments, and the deplorable treatments at Walter Reed Hospital. The traits that have made journalism great and respected and impactful for most of the past century are sorely lacking in many of today's practitioners. Instead of facts, many journalists today trade in supposition and opinion. Instead of dispassionate, neutral coverage, many have offered emotional rants that border on disrespect. Instead of covering all sides of the story, entire news organizations have chosen to pick one side over another. And Donald Trump's broadsides have only forced reporters to hunker down even more with these harmful practices. And we're going to do a slight derailment. Honorable mention to Mr. Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart recently gave an interview a few weeks ago where he said Trump is playing up to the reporters' narcissism. These reporters are taking it personally when Trump says something. And it's really baffling. It is. When I was in Ferguson, you had the riots in the streets. Eventually, most of the locals who were protesting, not all were rioting, most were protesting, they leave, and all that's left is a group of about 50 journalists and members of the media taking photos, filming videos, and standing there, and the police said, "You must disperse." The group, the gaggle of press, slowly just moved backward, taking photos, ignoring the police, and the police then said, "Journalists, press, we're talking to you. You're the only ones here. You have to leave." I was on the other side of the street and I said, "Film that. That's the story." This big mass of oblivious journalists who don't think they're part of the story, and that's the two sides of the coin. You have the journalists who do the completely uninvolved, I'm not having an effect, and I'm going to get in the way because I'm not paying attention, and then you have the I'm the hero of my own story journalists who go out and claim to be the arbiters of truth even when they're lying. The self-destructive behavior was on full display this week as professional journalists strayed far from their neutral voice in reporting on and simultaneously condemning Trump's statements on why he chose to maintain good relations with Saudi Arabia, despite its role in what happened with journalist Khashoggi. Fox News anchor Shepard Smith declared, "President Trump stands with Saudi Arabia. Today, the president insulted the victim and sided with the Saudis, who said our CIA is wrong." On CNN, Brianna Keilar suggested there was little difference in Trump's annual rite of pardoning a Thanksgiving turkey and his treatment of Saudi Arabia. And there you have it. President Trump pardoning the Thanksgiving turkey, the annual tradition, peas in the name of this turkey, Keilar said on CNN's newsroom. And just the most unusual dichotomy here, as this comes on the heels of a statement that the president has put out essentially pardoning Saudi Arabia and the crown prince and the king here. Yeah, they talk about a Washington, CNN added. Such rhetorical flair may make the journalist emotionally satisfied for a moment, but the interjection of opinion and the insinuation and condemnation disserves the public for a far longer time, depriving viewers and readers of a neutral set of facts upon which to make their own decisions and opinions. And naturally, when they do this, people are going to be swayed by the emotion of the viewer, just like when you watch me, right? But look, what you're watching here is literally my op-ed column opinion channel, just like this is his. My main channel is a bit different, but I definitely have opinion, but you'll notice I am particularly dispassionate on my main channel. My video yesterday about the Harvard lawsuit, I was livid. You can tell I was pretty angry. I was getting really angry. On my main channel, I don't really do that. It's much calmer. Though I do have my opinions in the story, I try to make it more reasoned and logical. What's happening with journalists, though, is they want to get attention. They want to bump their ratings. Jim Acosta is gold for CNN only because Trump is platinum. The Trump bump has helped all of these cable channels lift their ratings. And Jim Acosta creating controversy and getting in the way and causing problems for real journalists generates more ratings for CNN. There are a lot of people who don't like Trump. CNN is courting those people. So when Acosta stands up and gets into an argument with the president, their ratings go up and they make money. And that is all they care about. He says, with rare exception, the wise elders of the profession have not spoken up forcefully enough to denounce this creeping cancer of POV journalism, nor stem the demise of the profession's core values of fairness, accuracy, precision, and neutrality. In fact, some are gleefully cheering on some of the bad boys' behaviors. Bob Woodward, my former colleague at the Washington Post, is one of the rare voices of consternation. He quickly recognized that President Trump's double-down battle with the media risked evoking emotional responses from a profession that requires neutrality under fire. His wise assessment of the Acosta dispute hearkened to the golden values of the journalism era just past. If you're angry as a journalist, he suggested, don't sue, opinionate, or denigrate. Instead, strap on a camera or a notebook and break some meaningful news that illuminates what is wrong without tainting it with the soapbox. I can put it another way. In the words of my first real mentor in journalism, George Reedy, he used to say, you don't use a bullhorn filled with opinion and emotion when a flashlight's illumination of facts will do. Bravo. He ends by saying, my old Irish aunt once admonished me in a slightly different but equally effective way. She used to say, if you want to have people listen to your opinion, become a politician. Otherwise, just stick to some damn facts, Mr. Reporter. Bravo to your old Irish aunt. I am of the opinion that if you need to lie to someone or convince them your opinion is right while omitting information, you aren't right. What's the point of saying, I believe this should be true? And this, look, listen, I think the world would be a better place if we had universal health care. I really do. Do I think we can do it? I don't know. And I'm not going to lie to you and convince you that it's possible like Cortez does. When Ocasio-Cortez says, we just pay for it, it's cheaper. Whoa, you got a long way to go before you get there, okay? I understand it's your opinion, but you pass it off like fact. She passes off fact, all these false statements as fact. She's wrong. Trump does this often as well. Look, nobody's innocent. I know a lot of people got mad at me the other day because I said Trump is often wrong or he's lying, and people have to decide which is true, which is not. But look, listen. I'm not making an assessment about whether or not everything Cortez says is a lie. She has some statements that have been proven false, and the same is true for Trump. If you want to trust either of them, that's up to you. The point I'm making, you would be silly to believe that either politician, Trump or otherwise, is not going to be wrong at some point. Depending on whether or not you like him or Cortez, you're going to decide whether or not you think it was intentional. But the point I'm trying to make is, these individuals think they know what is true and don't care about actually trying to sort through the information. Now, I think in Cortez's defense, she just has no idea what she's talking about, right? I don't give Trump as much leeway simply because he's much older. He is significantly smarter than Cortez, and so I do lean more towards, I think Trump knows what he's doing. I do. When he says things that are wrong, or he phrases certain things a certain way, it's all a part of his sales technique, and Cortez, it's kind of a double, it's a backhanded compliment, I'll say that. Look, you guys know I'm not a big fan of Trump, but I don't think he's a dumb man. I do not. I think he knows what he's doing, and I don't think he's a bad person. I think everyone thinks they're trying to do something right. Let's get back to the main point I'm trying to make, though. When I try to convey information, there are things I think are right. I do. Like I mentioned, universal health care. But I'm not going to lie to you and claim I know if it's possible or not. In fact, I'm concerned it may not be possible. I just don't know. And because of that, I would never say we have to do it at all costs, because that could hurt people. It's better to say, whoa. Let's go over the facts. There's things I want, obviously, but the facts are more important, because if the facts prove me wrong, I stand corrected. Right? If you think I'm wrong about Trump, by all means, comment in the description below and tell me what I'm getting wrong, because I'm absolutely always reading and trying to learn, 100%. And the same is true for Cortez. I just think there's going to be a lot less Cortez fans who are watching my video. Anyway, journalism is in trouble, and it's not necessarily the fault of these big organizations, though they're definitely grabbing the bait. It's because opportunity erupted with the internet. And what works? Opinion. What works less? Facts, unfortunately, and that's bad news for everybody. But anyway, thanks for hanging out. I know we can all sometimes disagree. I got comments the other day saying that I was really dumb. I get it. I accept it. It is what it is. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys tomorrow.